Hello, this is Casey Budd, the Astro Muse. I wanted to do a little book review. I started a book club that's called Minerva's Owl that's on Facebook, where I'm going to be reading 1 or 2 Astro-Aligned books per Astro season, per Zodiac season, and then kind of reviewing them or discussing them at the end. If the book club gets big enough, there might be a Zoom meeting or something to have a discussion at the end. But if it doesn't get big enough, I'll just do these little reviews and post them on Facebook, I guess, or on YouTube. Post them in my group and in YouTube so people can watch them if they want to kind of hear my thoughts about these books. And the point is, it just might connect you a little bit more to astrology and allow yourself to align more and live more kind of astro harmonized. You can learn more about each zodiac sign, and through the book try to identify some of the themes and strengths and weaknesses of each archetype, and just get to know those well and kind of feel those in your body. And we usually do kind of naturally follow the energy of the different zodiac season already, and reading a book aligned with it during that season will potentially help you kind of settle in more to those energies even further. So for Capricorn, I read The Dutch House and The Last House Guest. These are very different books, but they both have a house in their title and as part of their big theme. And they really do, they have some similarities in terms of their themes, and they have some notable differences as well. So The Dutch House is a really beautifully written book. Many people have probably already read it. If not, you've certainly heard about it because it's gotten a lot of attention. And I'll be honest and say it took me a long time to get into it. It's very slow for me, but that's the way Capricorn season is. And that's one reason why I thought this was a Capricorn book, in addition to it just being about a house, which is a very grounded, stable, rootsy sort of thing. And Capricorn is about roots and stability and structure. So, the book is about that. It's about roots. It's about family. It's about stability and structure and what it takes to give us that. It's about this house, but also what the house represents. It's about status. It's about possessions. It's about family and complex family dynamics and painful family dynamics and restricted family dynamics, and a parent that's not there, 2 parents who aren't there, step parents who are there but aren't that invested in the main characters, and a complex and close sibling bond, but that's slightly dysfunctional in some ways, and a main character who does something he didn't really want to do with his life and then has to kind of change directions. I don't want to give away the details in case somebody hasn't read it, but overall there's themes of bonds and commitments and deep relationships and shallow relationships and dysfunctional relationships and more functional relationships, and just a variety of relationships and complex bonds that a family has. This family in particular, but you might be able to relate it to your own family in some ways, and look at the nature of your own complex family bonds and the house and land where you grew up. And some people have more connection to that than others. Some people moved a lot or lived in a rented house or something. So some people's roots are not as strong as a family having a certain house in a certain place for a long time, and even that house having all this history to it. In the Dutch House, the house has all this history as well, with all this, you know, complex layered family history that goes with it from the previous owners. So yeah, all that is very Capricorn-y. It's also very Cancerian, which is the opposite sign to Capricorn, which has to do more with the family bonds and the emotional energy. So it's kind of Cancerian as well as Capricorn, this book. And there's a little bit of Taurus energy as well, another earth sign that's kind of about possessions and real estate and that sort of thing. So those energies are all at play, but especially Capricorn in this case. So I think I did label the book correctly. It's a little bit hard to try to label a book before you fully read it, but like I said, I kind of had a hint that it was Capricorn-y by it being slow for me, which is a Capricorn energy, and just kind of denser and a little heavier. You know, I felt it kind of depressing, like these characters had some hard childhood, and not terrible. There are worse stories, but it was not an easy, breezy, light and happy vibe. So, you know, that made me feel Capricorn. But again, if you persevere through life and through the book, you know, you get the rewards of Capricorn energy, which, you know, at the end of the book, it was deep and rich and meaningful. And that's kind of the way Capricorn is. If you build the structure and you go through the steps and you do the work, you eventually do get some reward for your effort. And that, you know, really fits this book and fits Capricorn in general. So that was a very Capricorn book. The Last House Guest is also Capricorn in a different way. It's also about status, and maybe more about status than the Dutch house is. It's about money. It's about power. So there's a little Plutonian Scorpio energy here, because this book is a little more about power. It's about manipulation and lies. So again, that might be more of like a Scorpio, Gemini theme. But there's a sense of roots here. There's a specific town and just the families that are always in this town and have been in this town for generations. There is a certain house that a particularly powerful connected family owns. So there's still these roots, house, family, connections, kind of going multiple generations theme in this book. And the relationships that these people make is really a key part of this story. But then this story, it has a mystery and faster paced. It was a lot easier to read for me than the Dutch house, but less rewarding. So again, that's that Capricorn vibe of the Dutch house. Harder, but more rewarding. Last House Guest was way easier and less rewarding. So it's a good book, but like a fun book, a lighter, more mysterious, faster paced. You know, I got into it mostly because of the mystery element. You know, there's a mystery to solve, and there's a little bit of suspense with it. But I didn't find the ending was all that gratifying, and you know, I thought that the Dutch house was like literary. The literary quality, the quality of the writing was like at a literary level, and the Last House Guest was by no means poorly written, but it just was a different kind of writing, and it just wasn't so literary. It was a little bit more pop, pop writing. So you know, those are my thoughts on that. And like I said, the Last House Guest, more deceptions, power, money, and the cost of all of that. So more Scorpio content, Capricorn, and Scorpio. So those are my reviews of those two. And for Aquarius, it's going to be Stranger in a Strange Land. I'm going for old books for Aquarius. I tried to pick some current ones and I just couldn't. I just didn't have any that were coming to mind. I actually started to try to read The Martian, which is like relatively recent. But I felt as I was reading it that it was very Virgoic or Aries, because Mars is Aries, and that could be a Mars energy there, or there is a Mars energy there because it's The Martian, he's on Mars. But but it could be, so it might fit more into the Aries month, and I'll read it either during the Aries month or during the Virgo month. It's just, there's a lot of technical, orderly description, and it just felt very Virgoic in the Martian. So I stopped reading that for now, and I'm reading The Left Hand of Darkness, which is a sci-fi classic written by a woman I've always respected when I've read about her, and I've read like little excerpts of things she's written. It's Ursula Le Guin. I think you say her name Le Guin. She's passed away, but she did a translation of the Tao Te Ching that I really love, that I read many years ago. And, you know, after that, I just looked her up and saw she was a, you know, very kind of decorated sci-fi writer, and, you know, had won lots of awards, is what I mean by decorated. And she seems like she's just a really wonderful, deep, complex writer, intelligent, and she puts a lot of philosophy. So it's science fiction, but it seems like it has a lot of philosophy in it. You know, she was very into Taoism, which is why she wrote the translation of the Tao Te Ching. And I love Taoism too. So I think I like hearing some of her philosophies and ideas, and she just weaves them into this fiction story. But it's hard, it's difficult so far. I'm only a few chapters in, and I'm having to keep like re-listening to parts of it because it's just kind of hard to stay with the story. But I think she won't get into philosophy until the story gets kind of going. So far, slow going, kind of difficult, but it won several awards. I'm going to try to stick with it and see if I can see why many people say it's one of the best sci-fi books of all time. And the other one is Stranger in a Strange Land, which is another sci-fi classic that is more kind of about philosophy than anything else. It has a man from Mars, and he comes to America. It's very slow in the beginning. I've already read a good deal of this book, and it's hard to stay with it in the beginning, but towards the end it gets very progressive, some very forward-thinking ideas, which is part of Aquarius. Many people might disagree or find it uncomfortable, but again, it's a sci-fi classic. I was curious because I'd never read it and wanted to see what it was about. And so I am. And yeah, I find it interesting. And again, this guy is from Mars too, but this book, I mean, there's a little bit of a Mars-ish Aries character to it, but it mostly strikes me as it's about the forward-thinking, unusual, different ideas of this extraterrestrial Martian character, who's actually a human, but he was just raised on Mars, so he got indoctrinated by the culture of people who live there in this fictional world created by the author, who's Heinlein. I'm not sure how you say it, but Heinlein, something like that. So yeah, those are the selections for Aquarius. Got to go a bit historic for it, but I think there are going to be some interesting concepts in there. And if you want to read them with me and give your thoughts on my Facebook page, great. It's Minerva's Owl, as I said, and you have to ask to be a member, but it's open to anyone who wants to join. And I'll do a video at the end of Aquarius. So again, Aquarius is all about forward thinking, technology, sci-fi, space, extraterrestrials, just broad ideas, out of the box, unique, eccentric, all of that. So eccentric ideas about a variety of things fit in with Aquarius. So I expect and believe hope these books will be aligned with that energy. It seems like they are. Okay, take care. Aloha.